Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the second race meeting of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. My name is Connery Maddock, and I'm joined by the ever-wonderful Paul Smith on the commentary for this particular broadcast. Welcome one and all to Brands Hatch, and not only Brands Hatch, it's just shortened layout as well. It's Brands Hatch Indy that we have to get on with here today in this second race meeting of the championship. Races 3 and 4 are on the cards here today, Paul, and what more interesting venue could we have at this point in the season than Brands Hatch Indy?
If you like your racing fast and frenetic with no room to hide, then congratulations, you've come to the right place. Brands Hatch Indy, it's a sub 50 second lap around here. We've been seeing laps of around a 44.5 seconds around here, so a quick lap for these drivers, which means that the laps come thick and fast. But it also means that opportunities are small for those drivers to make some moves as well, so qualifying could be key in all of this. And it's just a shame that I had to miss last round, because that was epic, the finish to that second race.
Yeah, we had an absolute barnstormer for a final lap of the feature race there, so hopefully we get something of that ilk here today. Here's a recap of the schedule, though. We were at Silverstone just a couple of weeks ago for our first round of the season. We're here at Brands Hatch now for the second race event, and then we head to Snetterton in a couple of weeks' time, then to Alton Park, and then we head across the channel. We head to Spa-Francorchamps for our first and only non-UK round. Then we head back to Silverstone, this time at the national layout for race 11 and 12. Then we go to Donington Park for our penultimate race meeting, and then we head back here actually to Brands Hatch, but using the full Grand Prix layout as our finale, race 15 and 16. Hopefully where we'll be crowning a champion as well. Let's have a look at the format then. We currently have open qualifying underway, lasting about 20 minutes, where drivers will try to set the best times possible to set the grid for race 1. Race 1 will be 25 minutes long, and then we'll have a 10-minute break in between the two races. Race 2, another 25-minute race, but the top 6 places are reversed. So that's the grid will be the race results of race 1 with the top 6 reversed. We got the point structure as well, a little bit different from this season compared to last season. We have a Pro class and an AM class, and you can see the points breakdown right there. You also get yourself 2 points for pole position as well, which makes this 20-minute qualifying session absolutely crucial, Paul.
Certainly does, and you'll see what a good day at the office it was for Sebastian Job last time out. Pretty much a perfect day for him, taking a 10-point lead in the championship over Will Chadwick, with Josh Thompson in third, not that far behind. Jamie Moon, though, is joint with Matt Emery. Those two couldn't be separated last season, and they're back there once again between themselves. Josh Marlin just 1 point behind them. Then Leon Penn, Ken Halliburton, Ollie Peacock and Eric Grove round out those top 10.
They absolutely do, and we can take a look at the AM standings, because those were the pro standings, but remember we have 2 separate championships going on this time around. In the AM class, it's Leo Garibaldi taking out the top spot. He was absolutely fantastic in those races at Silverstone. Had a little bit of bad luck towards the end of the first race, but he really bounced back, and currently is at the top of the AM standings. Then you've got Branson Blakesley in P2, Daniel McCauley P3, Gareth Higgins, Luke Pennington round at the top 5. Then you've got Scott Merckx, James Parker and Jimmy Rushworth rounding out the drivers that actually scored points last time out. And on count back from positions, we got Jacob Urbanchik and Adam State rounding out the top 10 in terms of the AM standing. So that's what that looks like in terms of the points order for each of your 2 championships. But let's have a look at where we are at here today. Brands Hatch Indy. Only just shy of 2 kilometers long, only 6 turns here down in Kent. And like you said, Paul, at the very start of the broadcast, sub 50-second lap times. And if I look at qualifying right now, we're starting to get into the sub 46, 45 seconds-ish lap times.
Yeah, certainly will be a real challenge. Undulation as well is going to be key on this one. And I say one of the trickiest corners around here is through Surtees into clearways. You're turning, you're braking, you're getting it slowed down for the Jim Clark curve right at the end of the lap. And that's where you will see some mistakes made.
You absolutely will. However, we will have to step aside just for a moment, because we've got a little bit of a track guide, of course, presented by the one, the only Will Chadwick. Let's take a look.
up guys, my name is Jacob Abanchik, or better known as Banik OP, and I drive for Missing in Action Motorsports in the 992 GT3 Cup car. And today I'll be taking you through the second track walk of the 2023 Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain Championship at Brands Hatch. This will be a big adjustment for all drivers as we go from one of the widest tracks on the service pretty much to one with very little room for error, and one that is very tight, so not going to be a lot of chances to overtake it. Even though that Brands Hatch Indy is a very short circuit, it still packs a lot of challenges, such as the turn 1 where you have to be very easy on the throttle on entry, but as you're reaching the compression you can just smash the throttle and push the car to its very limit. But enough talking about it, and let's go for an onboard lap at Brands Hatch Indy circuit. Okay guys, so now for an onboard lap of Brands Hatch in the 992 GT3 Cup. Here into turn 1, we are going to be braking between the 150 to 100 marker, going into third, clipping the apex on the inside, as I said, hard into the compression once we get over the crest. Here, right before the 50, we brake into second, holding the apex, then lightly on the throttle, but then smashing it out after, going all the way wide here as well, all the way wide, clipping the apex. Here, you want to go really wide because you don't get a 1x. And here, we just slightly lift and then aggressively onto that apex, braking as soon as we reach the apex. Now here, holding again onto the apex, lightly on the throttle, and then smashing it out into third gear. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the lap. I hope you guys enjoyed the second track walk of the 2023 Porsche Carrera Esports Cup Championship, and hopefully you learned a thing or two about this excellent British track. And yeah, I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of the show.
So there we go then, that was our look at the lap around this magnificent venue. Of course, a historic venue is this kidney bowl of the Indy circuit. Of course, it started off as a dirt road, did this track, and then eventually decided to pave it before giving us this magnificent racetrack. And this track, it has got a lot of history in the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain. Number of seasons now they've had the championship finale around here, and certainly a place where champions are made. But right now, today, well, we're waiting to see how qualifying pans out.
Yep, we absolutely are, and I do apologise to Jacob there for completely misintroducing him. I'm so used to Will Chadwick being the track guide person for the entirety of last year that I completely missed the memo, apparently. But yeah, we're straight into qualifying here. Drivers getting themselves all set, and you get yourselves plenty of chances here at this race circuit. Remember, we're doing 45-second lap times, some of them just under that, so you're going to have ample opportunity to try and get up onto the board and try and get as high on that board as is possible. I get the feeling, Paul, we'll see a lot of these fast times actually come out towards the end of the session as well, as drivers get their cars in the optimal window.
Well, the drivers have got to be careful because they are starting qualifying. With this being a fixed setup series, they are starting qualifying with race fuel on board. So, as Jack Sedgwick just goes to the top of the standings now. So we are seeing those times come down lap on lap. But we've also got to take into account the conditions out there as well, because I'm seeing track temperature up at 40 degrees Celsius. So it's actually quite a warm track out there. So it's that sort of mix of wanting to have nice fresh tyres, but when you've got the fresh tyres, you've got the heavier fuel load. So you're going to be seeing drivers come onto pit road and get some pit stops done as well.
Absolutely. Got to do everything within the rules and within your power to be able to get those competent times. But there's we see drivers again just trying to find that little bit of real estate to run in as well. This can be very tricky, as you have a combination of people on fast laps, you have a combination of people on out laps, in laps, and a track as short as this. Trying to find that little bit of space to run in for a fast lap is going to be quite tricky.
Yeah, you've got drivers trying to prepare their tyres and their car whilst others are coming round, and as I said, you've got no real place to hide around here. You've got to be careful not to block anyone or hinder anyone as they're coming round. So Lewis Ward we're seeing right now, the Apex Academy liveried car coming up to Druids Hill Bend, and a very tricky corner to get right. You can so easily go in a bit too hot into that long sweeping right-hander. Down to Graham Hill Bend, the left-hander, and as we so expertly got told, use all of that runoff on the right-hand side there, and then through Surtees, and he's just backed off out of this lap. He's decided that was just a bit of a preparation, getting himself into a nice bit of clear air.
Indeed, and well, here's Jamie Moon working his way around here at the moment. Of course, in the Pro class, remember we have two classes here today. We have the AM class and the Pro class. Leo Garibaldi currently doing very well for the AM category, up into 4th place, although he does get surpassed by another AM. Jamie Rushworth up into 4th place. Garibaldi, though, instantly responds with a 2nd place time here in qualifying. But this is all still the prelude here at the moment because, well, just as I was mentioning that we get to see the times from a lot of the fast drivers, Sebastian Job just decides, I want to set a 44.561 and go to the top of the order. Absolutely no problem.
Well, this is the thing. You've got to be careful in qualifying when you actually get your lap time in, because you can fall into the trap of coming in trying to hold off and no, I'll wait, and then before you know it, you've left it too long, and the track is just absolutely chocker full of people all trying to do their fast laps at the same time, whereas right now there is a little bit of space out there, not much, because you have got so many people just trying to get their tyres and cars prepared for the hot laps.
Running on board with that number 90 car, Joshua Malin. 44.839 currently the best lap time that he's been able to put down. Good enough for 8th place here at the moment, but is there any sort of improvement on that coming up across the line? Not at the moment, just about 0.2 of a second off of his fastest lap time there. But there's still plenty of time left in the session. Oh, careful with the rejoins here. I mean, they're bad in the race, but in qualifying, when you have someone on the fast lap and you send them into the barriers, that's not necessarily going to be score you any friends.
And the problem with that is if you do take a reset back to the pits, you reset back to the pits with a brand new fresh car, which means you've got that full race fuel again. Mm-hmm. What these drivers have been doing is they've just been going around trying to burn off that fuel, get some weight out of this car so that then they can attack right at the end of qualifying. And that's what they're all trying to do right now. It's all tactics, and as long as they keep out of everybody's way, if anybody is on a hot lap, then keep out the way, and you can take advantage of that and really work the fuel numbers.
You really can. Someone off out into the grass there, rejoining the circuit just out of Graham Hill Bend. 7 minutes left to go in the session. We're watching the Pro Championship leader here at the moment. That's Sebastian Job on his way through the very back end of the lap right now. Just a 0.5 of a second ahead of Jack Sedgwick at this moment in time. And, well, with such a short lap time, you would have usually thought that a 0.5 of a second would be quite close. But, in context, actually, it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, around here it is quite a big number, is that you can have a couple of tenths, well, you can see there, a couple of tenths cover the first 8 cars, so it shows how little the margins for error are around this track, and it really gives us a good challenge, as there's Leo Garibaldi, currently 5th place for the AM. That's really good going so far. Hold it down to the right hand side here, because it is actually slightly shorter to the line, and that is an improvement of time, but not an improvement of place.
Still just over 1/10 of a second off of the pole position sitting time, which every other track would be a pretty good place to be. Speaking of great places to be, Will Chadwick not doing the track guide this time around, but he's making a statement out there on the actual qualifying session, going to the very top of the order. And for Will Chadwick, this is a very important qualifying session. He needs to solidify his, good results that he was able to get out of the first round of competition at Silverstone. He's 2nd place in the Pro Championship, and, well, if he can get a good result here, get a couple of points over Job, then that is going to be a massive advantage going his way.
It certainly is, and you know, he's got to think clever about all of this. There's people like Josh Thompson just preparing the tyres. 5 minutes remaining, and we've got to remember as well, once that clock strikes 0 here, that is it. You do not get to finish your lap. So really, you want to be seeing drivers getting, at the very latest, starting their last lap with 46 seconds remaining on that clock.
Yeah, that's the ideal situation. Of course, things work slightly differently here with an open qualifying in a heat racing session. We don't get that extra time to be able to complete the final laps. That's the difference between an open qualifying session in a heat race and an open qualifying session anywhere else. Don't ask me why that is. It's just the way it is. But we're looking at Kane Halliburton here for Apex Tech, 4th place in the qualifying session here at the moment. Go on.
Jack Sedgwick has just got a personal best middle sector. In fact, it was purple middle sector. Just got across the line now to the top of the standings.
Another change of provisional pole position. Number 10 to the top of the order. Kane Halliburton with a fast lap. Gets himself up there as well. Look at how close the top 4 are. They're all covered within 1/10 of a second. That's incredible. But I think this still has a lot of room to change inside these final 4 minutes.
Moon has got a personal best middle sector that we're just looking at now, coming out that final corner. Can he get the run down across the line? Chadwick's got a personal best opening sector as well, so the times are coming in now for these drivers. And look at that, Moon up to 5th. Oh, Chadwick's backed off.
Yeah, he's going to take this as another prep lap, and he's going to go full beans here on this next lap here. Maybe he was impeded by a little bit of traffic. He's going to take that big wide arc through the final corner. Well, compromises him on this lap, but means he's able to carry much more speed down in towards turn number 1 to benefit the next.
Yeah, that is something that you can do here and take that nice wide arc, as you say. Get that power down early to carry the speed down towards Paddock Hill Bend. Don't run too far wide or else you'll get yourself an instant point. And it's a fastest of all through sector 1 for Will Chadwick. So it's only a short first sector here. 9.338 is the first sector. Middle sector coming up, and it's a case of will he keep those purples coming? No, it's not even a personal best middle sector.
Oh, with the margins so tight, he can't be afforded to be dropping the best times like that. But he's got a track clear of traffic as he heads his way out of the final corner. What's the lap time going to be for Will Chadwick? He still has time left in the session to put another couple of laps in. It's a 44.462 there for Will Chadwick, which does get himself pole position by 8/1000ths of a second. Here comes Sebastian Job, pro category leader, on the end of his lap right now. It's a 44.465 to beat. It's a 44.301 for Sebastian Job. Obliterates the competition.
Yeah, brilliant lap from Job. Absolutely sensational stuff. And if I'm him, I'd try and carry on and just see if I could get a bit more. But yeah, a 1/10.5 over Chadwick and Halliburton is certainly interesting. Sedgwick, he's not on a personal best here. He's not had a good lap so far. Leo Gariboli is currently improving times in sectors 1 and 2. And across the line does not move forward there.
Yeah. Well, slight improvement on the times there for Sedgwick, and a slight improvement on position as well. That's how close the top 4 were previously. You gain a couple of hundredths of a second, and all of a sudden you gain yourself a spot on the grid. But so Sedgwick up into 2nd place. Here's Kane Halliburton dealing with a bit of traffic on the way into the final sector. That's completely bottled his lap. He has to take the trip across the grass. Traffic in the wrong place at the wrong time for the number 12 Apex Tech car, and that's what he thinks of that. Just stuffs it in the barriers.
Yeah, he will have had a slow down penalty. It's worth pointing out, Job did go quicker on that follow-up lap. So he did go even quicker at the front there, so he's almost 2/10 clear, and he's parked the car, he's done. These are the final laps then for drivers out there.
Indeed they are. Remember, this is an open qualifying session in a heat server, so we do not get the buffer time at the end of qualifying for drivers to complete their laps. Once that clock hits 0, well, that is it. So these will be the final laps for these drivers here. As we're having a look at Ollie Peacock currently heading his way through the final sector.
Sedgwick, personal best in Sector 1. It's a case of, will he get a Sector 2 best? No, he doesn't.
We go across the line for these drivers to complete their laps here. Any big movers in the timing order? Ollie Peacock up into 6th place. Fantastic jump for him. Josh Thompson getting inside the top 5. Here comes Will Chadwick then. Can he make any sort of improvement whatsoever? Yes, he can, but it's not going to be enough to get onto pole position. It's enough to get onto the front row, however. So last-ditch attempts there has pretty much worked out for Will Chadwick, as we will briefly just get ourselves a little bit of a look at the starting grid then for race number 1 here at Brands Hatch Indy. It's Sebastian Job with pole position by just shy of 10th and a half back to Will Chadwick. Then we've got Jack Sedgwick in P3 with Kane Halliburton P4. Josh Thompson will line up 5th with Leo Garibaldi, our top AM driver, lining up in 6th place. Then you've got Ollie Peacock there for Apex Tech in the number 23 car in 7th place with a last-ditch qualifying effort. Then you've got Jamie Moon in P8. Eric Grove will start in 9th with Matthew Emery in P10. Then you got Thomas Cope for Olympus Esports in P11 with James Parker in the Team DCWR number 30 machine. Then you've got Jamie Rushworth for Pure Sims in P13. Satellite Racing's Adam States will start in 14th. Then you've got Leon Penn there in 15th. Then you've got an Apex Racing team car, William Redford in P16 with Josh Malin in P17. Daniel McCauley P18 lining up behind one of his teammates. Then we've got Luke Pennington in P19 with Adam Smalley, of course, the professional Porsche driver in the Real World Series, continuing to join us here for the Esports Series. He lines up in P20 with Brandon Blakesley in P21, Gareth Higgins P22 with Lewis Ward P23. Scott Mokes will start in 24th place. And then our last driver on the starting grid, Jacob Urbanjic, rounding out the top 25 position, or rather the full 25 car starting grid here that we have for race number 1. So that was a little bit of a chaotic qualifying session there, Paul. We knew we were going to get the vast majority of the fast lap times towards the end of the session, but I don't think we really expected it to be as competitive as it was.
It was really close between those top 5, top 6, that's for sure. And you didn't really know who was going to be pole position until Sebastian Job, our current Pro Championship leader, just came along and went, watch this. Does not 1, but 2 pole position laps back to back. That settled it for him at the front there. It's worth pointing out Adam Smalley, the Porsche Junior driver who races in the Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain. He is relatively new to sim racing, so that's why you might be seeing him a little bit further down. He's still getting himself acclimatised, but I cannot think of a better team really to be involved with than the Apex Racing team.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of young talents head their way through that team and become, you know, sort of the superstars of iRacing. So definitely a place where you can develop your craft in terms of sim racing. Of course, Adam Smalley, he's already got himself a race win in the real series, so already has a little bit of glory to his name. But as we're getting ourselves, everyone, set on the starting grid here at Brands Hatch, of course, this famous undulating pit straight on the way down in towards Paddock Hill Bend, our turn number 1 here today. We're just a couple of moments away from getting the second race meeting underway here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. We're racing here at Brands Hatch. It's a poor start from Will Chadwick. He has to immediately come over to try and cover off the move from Jack Sedgwick around the outside. 2 by 2 deeper in the back, down through Paddock Hill Bend here as Sebastian Job tries to break away already on the way in towards Druid, as we see a bit of a fight here involving the AM class leader. That's Leo Garibaldi on the outside, being freight trained down the inside as they head their way towards Graham Hill Bend.
Oh, this is such a tricky opening lap around here. It's not the widest of circuits, it's quite tight around here and a flowing run. You want to be single file by the time you get to Surtees, which is exactly what you're seeing the majority of drivers do there. Will Redford is dropping down the order, I can see, so he must have had a drama out there, but he is still running. But across the line already, 0.8 of a second, call it, over Will Chadwick as our race leader.
Yeah, Chadwick just bogged down on the initial start and is very, very lucky actually to be still holding on to P2, because it could have all gone pretty much sideways on the way through Druids. If anyone was able to get down to his inside there, we saw what happened to Leo Gariboli when people were stiffing down the inside there. It can cause you a little bit of a sketchy situation. We do see Daniel McCauley, that's one of the Apex cars, out into the wall, rejoining the circuit right at the very back of the field there. So we have had a few casualties already here in the opening couple of laps at Brands Hatch Indy. Here's what happened to McCauley. Just a solo car incident.
That's Will Redford. That's on lap 1, that is. I said that he was dropping down the order, and that is what happened to him. But McCauley, I think it was very much a glancing blow to that barrier on the entry into Graham Hill Bend, so he should be fine to carry on without going into the pits, but it does put him all the way down to last place. There you go, his back end just doesn't cooperate with him, and yeah, that shouldn't be too bad around there, and he should be fine to carry on. But yeah, in that mid-pack, there's no place to hide. It's very much like a WWE cage match. You've got nowhere to run.
Well, yeah, I mean, both the Apex Racing Team cars having a bit of an issue on the first lap. Meanwhile, at the very front of the field, Will Chadwick has immediately responded to that initial start from Sebastian Job, because Job was almost able to get that gap up into 1.1 seconds. Will has cut that down now to 6-7 tenths of a second. You know, that's positive if you're in that number 88. Well, currently Team Fortilla car, but we'll have to see if there's any little bit of sort of shake-ups there in terms of team. But let's have a look at the with the onboard there with Josh Thompson, who's off there. Someone further down the field, Luke Pennington.
Yeah, not having a good day at the office is Luke, and dropping down the order very quickly indeed. Worth pointing out here, with qualifying, you normally want to actually qualify in second place here, as we'll look at what happened to Luke. Oh, that was a little bit rude into the back there, and just forces him off. And then you've got to be very patient with the throttle there. And look at that, it was just a look down the inside, half a door open, and well, the driver just smashed it through.
You've got Eric Grove and Josh Malin battling it out for P10 out there on circuit, down towards the inside through Graham Hill Bends. That sometimes can be quite a squeaky bum move, I will say, as drivers behind get caught up in that. We've got this car off ahead. Someone sliding down the order. It's Joshua Malin. Joshua Malin seems to have had a problem at the very back end of the lap, and now he's been cycled all the way back down in towards P21. So drivers having a couple of issues off screen here, and it does mean that the order's been shaken up just that little bit. Here's a little bit of a replay of what happened. A little bit of side-to-side contact into the final sector.
Yeah, with the Pure Sims driver, I do believe that was Eric Grove, by the looks of things. And yeah, just with these cars, when you're going into a corner like Surtees, you're putting a lot of the weight transfers over to the right hand side. Here's what happened to Sebastian Job. This is the reason why Will Chadwick was able to catch up that gap at the front. It's just an honest mistake through Paddock Hill Bend. It's so easily done. That gravel trap, it seems to have magnets in it, just the way that cars get attracted to it. But you are on the edge there as you plunge downhill. The car goes light, and then it really grips up as you hit the bottom of that compression. But yeah, normally around this track you normally try and get second place in qualifying. It sounds counterintuitive, but that pole position spot is actually on a steeper hill than the second place spot on this circuit, and so therefore I was actually thinking that Will Chadwick had the best opportunity to get a chance of having a look at the lead into turn one, but unfortunately for Will, it didn't quite pan out for him.
It really didn't. And now his main concern is that Job is starting to pull away once again. Up to 8-9 tenths of a second now in terms of the battle for the race leads. Here's the battle for 7th place though, involving Ollie Peacock, Kane Halliburton, Matt Emery, Eric Grove, Leon Penn. Lots of drivers involved in this one. And of course, with the facts that we've had, a good couple of drivers have issues over the course of this race so far. At this race, more than any other, we'll probably see lap traffic start to actually be a factor.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, when you think the average lap time for Sebastian Job at the front is currently in the high 44s. He's just done a 44.8 across the line. Yeah, one little mistake. I mean, Dan McCauley, he is currently around about, how far off of Sebastian Job? He is currently about 27.5 seconds off of Job. So McCauley is about that midpoint to him being lapped.
Yeah, so that might be an issue perhaps in the very latter stages of the race for your leaders. Chadwick's keeping Job honest here. Job is not necessarily pulling away as much as we're used to seeing him here, Paul, because remember, I know you weren't commentating on it, but you were watching it. Remember back to Silverstone in the first race where he was just able to run for the hills and no one was able to touch him.
Well,
not the case here in this one, though.
Well, you say that, but the first half of that race last week, 2 weeks ago, Sebastian, he didn't pull away. I think he's doing a very, very astute thing, which is just looking after his car, looking after his tyres, just to slowly bring them in, and so that then when it comes to that second half of the race, when the others have been pushing as hard as they can through that first half of the race, he's then got that extra grip in the second half, and I think that's what, in the end, caused him to waltz away at the front in race number 1 last time out. But you know, he didn't immediately run away with it, and he's doing it again.
We'll keep a very, very close eye on it. Slight difference this time around is that Chadwick has really no pressure from behind. You've got Jack Sedgwick just a drift of about a second off of his rear bumper. So, and Sedgwick has bigger issues to be concerned about, like Thompson, like Moon, which is the battle that we're watching right now. So that will give Chadwick a little bit of breathing room to focus and keep sort of within the same postcode as Job. But like you said, the worry comes towards the end of the race, whether or not Job's been able to manage his tyres a little bit better. And did want to talk about that, though, because we have quite hot track temperature here today for the UK. We've got 39 degrees Celsius on track.
Yeah, and that's, again, another reason why I would maybe be looking after my tyres a little bit in this early going. The better that you can look after your tyres in iRacing right at the start of the race, don't take all the life out of them or put a big ton of heat through them, the better that they will be over this race. I mean, these tyres on these cars are designed to last about an hour or so in racing. It's only a 25-minute race. You'd think, well, I can really push these tyres from the start and they'll give me all the grip. No, you still want to look after them to start off with. Chadwick is still gaining slightly, actually, on Job at the front, but meanwhile, Peacock, Halliburton, Matt Emery, Eric Grove, Leon Penn, all together in a queue of cars further down in your order.
Obviously, in iRacing as well, you also have to keep an eye on that tyre temperature as well. That's usually what kills them. If you slide it a little bit too much on exit, that'll just compound things. You'll have a little bit less grip, and then you'll slide even more, you'll have even less grip, and you can get yourself into a bit of a vicious cycle with the tyre management, like stemming from just one mistake.
Yeah, you slide that car, you put a lot of heat through those tyres. It takes a while for that heat to go away here in iRacing, so you've got to be careful with it. Adam Smalley there, our Porsche Junior driver, currently driving for the Apex Racing team here in this series. He's slowly been moving forward in this field, partly because of people having issues, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's made some moves himself as well out there. And yeah, as I say, he's still growing, getting himself accustomed to sim racing, because when we met him, Connor, he was chatting away with last season's champion Kevin Ellis Jr. and just asking about what sort of setup he could get. So he didn't have anything at that time, and that was in September.
Yeah, absolutely. So to be able to adapt to this discipline of racing, because I do count sim racing as sort of a different discipline of motorsports as a whole.
So does Motorsport UK as well. They just announced that this week, that sim racing and esports are part of the disciplines of motorsport for Motorsport UK.
And that's fantastic to see. Further legitimizes what the drivers do and their efforts to be at the very top of the game. And when we get racing, you know, like we saw at the end of the Silverstone event, you know, that's the excitement can be just as high as it would be in the real world when you've got two drivers battling for the race lead through the final couple of corners. You know, it gets your heart rate up.
Certainly does, and I know Paul Crawford, he's been doing a lot of work behind the scenes there at Motorsport UK, and him and his team, it must be commended for them to embrace the world of sim racing. I know there's a few organisations out there that are still very much see it as a bit of a game, whereas yes, it may be virtual, but the racing is very much real, and we're certainly seeing some good racing here. Just again, Kane Halliburton's putting the pressure on. I think he's trying to get a mistake out of Ollie Peacock here, because Peacock has been in front in 7th place for quite a while, and I just think Halliburton feels that they're slightly faster than Ollie.
I mean, they are part of the same team, that Apex Tech outfit. I have to wonder if maybe Halliburton can negotiate a pass here, as we'll see a replay. Ooh, that's going to be a big slap with the wall and bouncing across the circuit there. That's the number 39 card, so that is Urbanchik, who started at the very back of the field. It's always scary when cars bounce back onto the circuit like that.
Yeah, and that's a big problem here at Brands Hatch. There isn't the most space in the world around this venue for runoff, and that wall does actually spit the cars back onto the track if they're not careful. So it very much acts as a funnel on both sides of that portion of the track. You can see the wall that's just in front of our camera shot there, and on the other side it really funnels the cars in after Paddock Hill Bend, and Chadwick's not giving this one up, but I think Job now is just starting to just eke out just a little bit more of that gap again now. So we're into that second half of the race, and Job is just working away slowly.
Yes, but you know, I'm just casting my mind back to the mistake he made earlier on in the race. That's probably, you know, I can count the mistakes that Sebastian Job made last year on one hand, pretty much, at least in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. So, you know, that's quite a rare event for him, and that might have been just a reminder that he's not this completely invincible driver that's going to be impossible to catch and or pass, and that might have given Will a little bit more confidence in terms of, well, you know, at least there's a chance for me here in this race.
I think if Sebastian thought this season was going to be a bit easier with Kevin Ellis Jr. and Pete Berryman not here to challenge him, along with Graham Carroll as well, I think he's very much mistaken, because Chadwick is trying his best to step up and to give him a challenge here. Don't write out Jack Sedgwick as well. We know he's got pace. It's just everything has to sort of pan out for him sometimes, and he has actually got ahead of Josh Thompson in this race, and Thompson falling back to 4th place here. And Thompson, again, he's one that on his day can be one of the fastest people on the track. It's just unfortunately his day is becoming a bit more few and far between, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is. And oh, big wreck in towards Druids, towards the back of towards the mid pack. Thomas Cope involved in it. That's the number 64. A couple of other drivers here as well. Lewis Ward, Higgins, all battling out for position in the little scrap that has come out of that. But there's a big problem there. Cope wraps himself around the nose of an oncoming car, and a big mess there in towards Druids.
He was getting a tank slapper on there through Paddock Hill Bend. It's going. He's touched the grass and the gravel, and bang! That Pure Sims car, nowhere to go in all of that. And fair play to everyone else to avoid Thomas Cope in all of that. And yeah, Rushworth, wrong place at the wrong time, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's not really a lot you could have done to avoid that. You just have to get very lucky with how that car's going to come back across the circuit. So Rushworth has come down into the pit lane, and presumably is trying to get some damage repaired, but I doubt that car will make its way back onto circuit with the shunt that it had, especially with only 9 minutes left to go. Here's the battle for 13th place. It's a battle between two drivers of different category as well. Am driver versus, well, pro driver versus, well, I would say, do we count Adam Smalley as a pro driver even though he's a guest driver? He has the same colour as the pro drivers.
He's a professional driver in the real world. So we could definitely say that, but he is the guest driver for this event, and definitely he's given it a good go. But again, he's up to 14th now in this race, and James Parker in front of him will give him a good race. Josh Malin trying to make some sort of recovery after his issue through this very portion of the track, and Lewis Ward right behind is pushing them all the way. But Malin just able to pull away on corner exit.
Indeed he is. Here's the, well, the rear view from his car as he's focused on that sim rig in front of him. Bringing it back to Adam Smalley though, he's actually gained 6 spots based on where he started. We had a graphic that showed he only gained 2 spots, but that's 2 spots in his quote-unquote class, which in this case would be the pro class. So that's just the situation there for Smalley, continuing to press on forwards. And of course, you know, given the whole gridding procedure for race 2 with the reverse grids, even if you finish outside of those reverse grid positions, you know, the higher you finish, the higher you're going to start for race 2. You know, it's as simple as that. So instead of starting P20, he's going to start P14 as Adam Smalley here at the moment.
Yeah, and he'll certainly give it a good go and try his best. Jamie Moon, by the way, keeping Josh Thompson very honest here right now. Thompson, I don't know if he's struggling with the setup. Now, everybody does have the same setup, but that doesn't necessarily mean that setup will suit your style of driving. So some drivers will actually suit this fixed setup a lot better. And look at that, Thompson taking the wide line in to try and get the drive out of the corner to go down the start and finish straight. If you can call it a straight. I think there's a little bit of a straight bit, and then it goes back into Paddock Hill Bend. But you could just see how Thompson was running that little bit wide, and Moon was sensing an opportunity, but none forthcoming into Druids. Not going to make that one from there. Not yet, anyway, Jamie.
I mean, it is basically your primary overtaking opportunity down into there at a track which is, well, overtaking opportunities come at a premium. Is a replay of an issue down in towards Druids. Apex car to the inside. That's the 21. Adam Smalley just encourages his opponent out of the way. That's was that Parker or was that Malin? I can't remember.
That was Parker, wasn't it?
Yes.
No,
Parker's
no,
gone back
Parker.
ahead.
No, Parker's ahead, yeah. And then here's what happened to Smalley. Runs wide, very deep. I said it's tricky to turn and brake around there, and Parker says, "Oh, thanks, mate. I'll have that place back."
How much of that was letting Parker back go again after
that
moving
was very
out the
much
way?
a mistake.
Okay. Yeah, maybe you can disguise things like that like mistakes, right? You know, if you want to keep some of your pride.
To disguise you going, no, actually, I've made contact with you. You go past, and then we'll sort ourselves out. No, that was very much a mistake. You can see it was a bit out of control under braking, and went deep through clearways, and yeah, that's the tricky part.
That's how people disguise team orders, right? Anyway, but they're separate teams. It doesn't apply in this situation. But we're back to the battle for P5 between Jamie Moon and Garibaldi. Garibaldi's been absolutely on fire this race in terms of his pace. It's
P4, sorry. Thompson's ahead of Moon here.
Ah, yes, of course. Yes, of course. But my point still remains, though. Garibaldi's been very, very good over the course of this race. He's solidified himself in the middle of those of that pro driver sort of armada right at the very front of the field. So, no other AM driver can really touch him at the moment. The closest AM driver is 7 seconds behind him.
Yeah, Garibaldi's done a fantastic job there so far. 6th place. Started up there as well, up in 5th place, didn't it? So, yeah, it's going well. Got a nice little bit of a gap back to Ollie Peacock and Kane Halliburton. So, yeah, if you're Leo Garibaldi, you must be absolutely delighted with how this opening race goes. And of course, 6th place. And then grid inversion could give him pole position for race number 2 as well, which for an AM driver, that's an ideal opportunity to get some real gap between yourself and your competition.
Yeah, fantastic opportunity indeed. And well, he's only about 4 minutes away from getting that accolade, and he's not under any sort of direct pressure whatsoever as Garibaldi, as we have a look at the two battles that we have going on the screen there just for a moment. As we look back to Grove in the number 20, trying to chase down Matt Emery in the number 38, heading their way through Paddock Hill Bend, and that's a fantastic overhead view, and you can see that Grove getting himself a decent run through that turn 1, but wasn't able to make anything of it in towards Druids. It's so difficult to try and get yourself even alongside around here.
Yeah, certainly. It's because you've not got a long straight to really get a slipstream on the car in front, to get the run on the car in front. Really, you need to be taking a little bit of a different line through Clearways and Jim Clark Bend to get the power down better than the car in front, to try and slingshot out that last corner down towards Paddock Hill Bend and make a move. You can make moves into Paddock. You've got to be a little bit brave, and you've got to watch out for the cutback into Druids. Druids, it's a bit of a shorter braking zone. You think, oh well, it's quite a tight hairpin there, but you've got an uphill braking zone, so gravity is your friend at that point, and it really does help those drivers out. So therefore, you can make moves there, but it is actually a shorter braking zone than you imagine. But I said second half of the race, Sebastian would be looking to pull away, and that's what he's been doing, but not by much.
Not significantly so. It's enough to have a healthy buffer, that's for sure. So Job isn't under any sort of immediate pressure here in the final minutes of this race. However, it's the
oh dear!
Oh,
Thompson!
Oh no! What's happened?
He's found a wall. He's found a wall. Is what's happened there. You could see the tyre marks in the gravel trap. So high drama. Now, what did he do that himself, or was he helped by Jamie Moon? I'm sure we'll get a look in a moment.
Yeah, sure we'll get our answer soon as we line up the replay. So let's have a look at it.
It's himself.
Absolutely. Oh, two tyres in the gravel. Oh, that is an unhealthy impact with the tyre barrier there. Rejoining back onto circuit, limping his way around, perhaps all the way to the checker flag if he doesn't have a meatball flag. Here's the onboard. Narrowly avoided as well.
Yeah, well done, Jamie, to react to that. You've not got a lot of time to react there, and if you hit the brakes whilst you're still turning through Paddock, you can actually unsettle the car and go off yourself in that one. So actually, well done, Jamie Moon, to keep a hold of that and keep that fourth place.
Fourth place in a little bit of no man's land as well now, so he can start to just cruise to the end. Battle for fifth place here, Leo Garibaldi with a top 5 finish possible for an AM driver. Very good to going indeed. We've got approximately 2 laps to go here. 46 seconds on the clock as this group heads its way across the line. Job continuing to try and push the gap out a little bit more at the very front of the field back to Will Chadwick, but again, it just needs one mistake and all that time is gobbled up. Just saw what happened to Thompson, dipped 2 tyres in the grass, or rather in the gravel, and you're going to have to try and work a miracle to try and save it. Here's the battle for 10th place. Now Thompson with a damaged car trying to hold on to spots.
And you can see how Thompson had a similar thing happen to what happened to Cope, but the problem is that Thompson's car reacted in an entirely different way to Thomas Cope's when he had his incident. But I do believe that Thompson and the rest of them now are on to their final lap here.
Indeed they are. There's Sebastian heading his way through Druids. And, well, he has lap traffic ahead to Daniel McCauley, but I don't think that's going to be a factor here at the very end of this lap. The lap time is just too short. Will Chadwick 1.7 behind. I think he's settled into a second place finish now as Sebastian Job heads his way through the final corner. Coming across the start-finish straight. Sebastian Job, another race win in the books here at Brands Hatch, Indy. Sebastian Job takes the top spot in race 1. Will Chadwick, P2, and Jack Sedgwick will be the final step of the podium here in race 1. But you don't want to go away because we have another race coming up. Those final couple of positions heading their way across the line now. Very close battle back there down through the fields. have 23 drivers finishing on the leading lap here once Daniel McCauley heads himself across the line.
Well, I mean, that was a superb drive by Sebastian to get himself yet another race win here in this championship, and 3 from 3, you can't ask for much more than that for him.
Absolutely. And of course we had that other entirely separate championship as well with the AM drivers. We'll recap the results. Sebastian Job takes the race win by 1.7 seconds over Will Chadwick. Then you got Jack Sedgwick in P3, Jamie Moon P4, and then our winner in the AM class, that is Leo Garibaldi from Team PGZ. Another fantastic effort, extending his lead at the top of the AM Championship. Then you've got Ollie Peacock in P6 with Ken Halibut in P7, Matthew Emery P8, Eric Grove P9, Josh Thompson rounds out the top 10 here in race 1. Then you've got yourself, Leon Penn in P11, Adam State P12, Adam Smalley in P13, Josh Malin, James Parker, Will Redford. Then you've got Lewis Ward, Gareth Higgins, Brandon Blakesley, and Scott Boakes rounding out the top 20 cars. And of course, further down, you have Luke Pennington, Jacob Urbanchek, Daniel McCauley, Jamie Rushworth, Thomas Cope, finishing the 25-car results. And of course, as a result of the reverse grids, we will see Ollie Peacock on pole position for race number 2 with Leo Garibaldi on that front row as well. So that will shake things up coming into race 2. And with how difficult it is to overtake here, if they get a good start, it could cause an issue for Sebastian Job and Will Chadwick behind as they try to work their way through.
Yeah, could well do. This is a place where you've got the opportunity of getting yourself a race win when maybe you're not the fastest of drivers out there. And for Ollie Peacock and for Garibaldi, they've got a tremendous opportunity of getting themselves a really, really good result here today. Don't write off Sebastian Job, though. He will make some moves out there. He's just got to be canny with it. Yes, it's his, 3rd win of the season here. So 3 from 3. You can't complain about that, but it only takes one mistake, get involved in somebody else's incident, and that could really have a massive effect on your championship.
It could, absolutely. When the margins are so fine, that is a significant issue. However, since we have a little bit of time here between race 1 and race 2, we can actually have a little bit of conversation with one of the drivers that took part here in race 1 and looks to improve in race 2. Will Chadwick, P2. Second step on the podium, second only to Sebastian Job. Will, how did that go?
I didn't go too badly. Really nearly messed up the start. Qualifying was very nervy because obviously everyone was so close in quali. You wanted to get the lap in, and when you position yourself well in quali, it makes the race a lot easier. But I did nearly mess up the start. Sebi's just so fast. I wish I was a bit closer when he made that mistake at lap 3, but ever since then he somehow was bulletproof. But that's what you come to expect with a driver of his caliber.
You kept him honest, though, throughout the race. Yes, towards the back end of the race, he was able to start pulling away from you. But considering all the factors that went into that first race, have you set a game plan here for race 2, especially when you consider that you're going to have to get through on those reverse grid beneficiaries? Do you have anything planned, or are you just going to take the race as it comes?
I think the plan is just to stay out of trouble at the end of the day. I think the key to consistency, the key here is just consistency at the end of the day. I mean, when you've got no drop rounds in a championship like this that's 8 rounds long, you don't want to be having one bad race because it ruins all the progress you've done. So if I can just stay consistent, just maybe make up a place or 2, maybe get on the podium again, that'd be great. But keeping the car out the wall is the main priority, and that's what I aim to do.
Absolutely, and just take me through your opinions of Brands Hatch Indy, because it is such a interesting track, perhaps for some drivers for the wrong reasons, but it does sometimes make entertaining viewing when you see so many cars all within close proximity. Whether or not they're able to overtake each other or not is a different issue, but how are you finding it out there?
I think in terms of overtaking, it's always going to be hard around here, and that pretty much goes for every track that you go to in this Cup car. That's probably down to the fact that your only hard braking zone is after a fast corner, which doesn't really help. But it's a bit sketchy on the tyres. The tyres I still don't quite understand enough to be able to keep Sebi honest through the race. I think, to be honest, he had half a tenth on me, and when he deployed that, especially towards the end of the race after his mid-race kind of conserving, he was able to just pull that little bit of a gap. But yeah, I mean, if people make mistakes, which is really easy to do with how hard this car is to drive around here, you can definitely have an opportunity to make a pass.
I'm not going to hold you to anything, but you can nail a start this time.
Well, we'll try, yeah. But starting from 5th, I obviously have to keep my nose clean and see where we end up. Jack was really quick for the majority of that race. The distance he finished back wasn't subjected to where his pace was because he kept me honest for 25 laps there. So Jack's not going to be easy to pass. Jamie made up some really good places. I mean, Peacock and Groboldi from the front of the grid is going to be interesting. So I think depending on how the start goes and how we get going, we'll see how the race goes, really. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Good start to the season again from the first 3 rounds. We just aim to keep doing the same thing.
All right, I wish you the best of luck for the second race. I'll leave you these couple of minutes of warm-up to try and prepare for that. But hopefully we'll be talking to you at the end of race 2 as well.
Hopefully. Thanks very much, guys.
All right, there we go. That was Will Chadwick there. Obviously, happy with the P2 considering it's P2 to Sebastian Job, which is, the best consolation prize that you could possibly ever get.
Yes, but also no, because if you're fighting in the championship, you want to be going for first. You want to be fighting for that first place over the championship leader, and I think that's where a little bit of I don't like to say it, but Will is a nice guy. He is a nice guy as well. And generally speaking, in motorsport, you've got to have that little bit of an edge, and I've yet to see that edge from Will. Maybe we'll see it in race number 2, and he'll get a bit feisty with Sebastian out there when they're busy racing, trying to work their way through. But he is absolutely right, though. Consistency is key around this track, and to get these good results early on in the stages of this championship does put you in good stead for the rest of the season.
I guess to develop a little bit further, some drivers need a villain arc. Yeah. That's what they need to do. They just need to.
They need a dark backstory with the parents getting involved in some sort of shenanigans and.
Need to get the claws out. That's the situation.
Let's just say this isn't the DC universe, so let's keep it at that. I mean, it's still a story we can tell, and we're storytellers here as commentators. We tell the story of the race, and well, we've got race 2 coming up in just a couple of minutes' time. It will be Ollie Peacock and Leo Garibaldi starting on the front row of the starting grid. What an opportunity for those 2 drivers to show us what they're made of. Of course, we know for Leo in particular how quick he has been in the AM category. He's basically been untouchable. He's been the Sebastian Job of the AM category. However, now he's at the top of the order overall, at least for the start of this race 2. Let's see if he can deal with that sort of pressure. We've actually got somebody in the Twitch chat calling it that it's going to be a good start from Garibaldi to take the lead into turn 1, so I'm holding that to you. But yeah, what a tremendous opportunity for Leo to. We've seen him for quite a while now in the world of sim racing and in this series, and to get this opportunity now of trying to get himself a potential race win or a podium result here. Could be really big stuff for him in his sim racing career.
Absolutely, and it's the same sort of opportunity for Ollie Peacock as well in the number 23 Apex Tech car. Another fantastic situation to find himself in, pole position. But of course, we've seen from a couple of drivers how tricky it is to start these cars in general, and of course, when you factor into how undulating this pit straight is, how difficult it is to start any car at this particular circuit. So a lot is riding on those initial phases of the race. Try and get yourself alongside into Paddock Hill Bend. Try and be brave on the brakes in towards Druids on cold tyres. That's probably where you're going to gain most of your spots outside of picking up positions on people who have problems later.
Do you know what? Actually, around the outside of Druids on lap 1 is quite a good tactic, to be fair, around here, because everybody goes for that inside line. They all check up, and if you're lucky, you can gain 1 or 2 places around the outside there. But the flip side of that is through Druids. If somebody has an issue on the inside and there's contact, you're the one getting punted out into the weeds.
We saw enough of that in race 1 with a couple of drivers out there. But drivers getting themselves the final bits of preparation in towards the end of this warm-up session to make sure they're in the right frame of mind heading in towards race number 2, especially for those drivers that have gotten themselves onto the front row of the starting grid. Ollie Peacock, Leo Garibaldi. You've also got the drivers for the Pro Championship as well, Will Chadwick and Sebastian Job, trying to figure out what they need to do to try and get a good result out of this upcoming race. It's going to be very exciting to see if they can make their progress through on those front runners, at least in terms of starting grids, the beneficiaries of the first grid, or whether or not they will get a little bit stuck. And it might spark a couple of very interesting battles back there, just inside, slightly outside of the top 5. But the warm-up session is starting to draw itself to a close, and soon we can bring you the confirmation of the starting grid for race number 2 here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup, Great Britain. This is race number 4 of the championship, and it's Ollie Peacock on pole position with Leo Garibaldi on the front row as well as your top place AM driver. Then you've got Jamie Moon and Jack Sedgwick rounding out the top 4 cars, and then you have your drivers of William Chadwick and Sebastian Job on that third row of the starting grid. You'll have to be looking back there, so you have to divide your attention 15 million different ways here on this race start to keep track of all the battles. Ken Halliburton will start in P7 with Matthew Emery in P8. Then you've got Eric Grove and Josh Thompson rounding out the top 10. Thompson, of course, going to be on a bit of a recovery drive here in race 2, given his issues in race 1. Then you've got Leon Penn in P11 with Adam States rounding out the top 12 cars. And then further back through the field, you've got your guest driver, the Porsche Professional Porsche Academy driver Adam Smalley, part of Apex Racing team here for this particular esports season. Then you've got Joshua Balin there in P14, James Parker in P15 with William Redford in P16. Then you've got Lewis Ward in P17, Gareth Higgins rounds out the top 18 starters. Then you've got Brandon Blakesley in P19, Scott Mokes in P20, then Luke Pennington, Jacob Urbanshik, Daniel McCauley, Jamie Rushworth rounds out the top 24 starters, and then in 25th we will see the number 64 Olympus Esports car of Thomas Cope lining up. So we've got about a minute and a half before we get the green flag and charging our way down in towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time in race number 2. Everyone getting themselves ready there. Of course, we saw the Porsche Junior driver of Adam Smalley have a fantastic race number 1, going from P20 overall to P13. So if you wanted to have a driver to sort of keep your eye on over the course of this race, I would definitely pick that number 21, Paul.
Yeah, could be in for a good shout, but it's negotiating your way through the early stages here that can be really key for these drivers. And the top drivers always leave it until the last few seconds before they grid up out there, just getting themselves all prepared. Don't need to worry about the setup, everybody's got the same setup, so it's just all about preparing yourself, preparing the car, and don't burn out that clutch on the start because it can catch a lot of people out, can this car, for the race starts.
And the clutch heat is modelled on this car, so it's something that you do have to be concerned about. Breaking point, or the biting point moving and some such. But as drivers will be getting themselves onto the starting grid now, just a couple of seconds away from hearing those engine notes rise once again. And movement down in towards turn number 1. It's Ollie Peacock on pole position, Leo Garibaldi on that front row as well. Huge pressure on their shoulders for this race start. We're about to get going once again in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain at Brands Hatch Indy. Great start from Garibaldi, the AM driver at the front of the field. He's got a fantastic launch on the way down in towards turn number 1. He tries to get himself around the outside of Ollie Peacock, but there's been a big crash at the back. Cedric's in the wall. Cedric's dropping down the order as the battle continues on at the very front of the field as Garibaldi swings into the race lead. Jamie Moon out to dry as Sebastian Job tries to improve positions off the start. He's almost gained 3 straight on the drop of the green flag.
Sebastian Job is on a mission on this opening lap. He wants to get those places gained as quickly as possible. My goodness, 3rd place now for Sebastian here. He is on a mission. And Will Chadwick trying to follow through. He has to stick to Sebastian Job, does Will, if he wants any hope of getting a good result here. But what a launch it was called in the chat. Leo Garibaldi to the front.
Yeah, I was watching, I was waiting for it, but then it happened. Oh, Will Chadwick's washed out here in towards Padacle Bend. Oh, Will almost got tagged around by, I believe it was Jamie Moon there, and now he's been punted back into a battle with Matt Embry. Then he's got the red light car of Thompson as well to deal with. That could not have gone any worse there through Paddock Hill Bend, short of a full-on crash for Chadwick.
Chadwick, big moment, as we saw the replay of what happened to Sedgwick and Halliburton into Paddock Hill Bend at the start of the race. Sedgwick was trying to send it around the outside, and Halliburton wasn't about to give him the space, and both cars ended up off the track into the wall, and that is their day pretty much done here. But my goodness, what drama in the first couple of laps. Of course, around this track, it's a short track, it takes you a little while to warm your tyres up. So when you come through at the start of the second lap into Paddock Hill Bend, the car just doesn't stick, and around you go. And speaking of around you go, we've got Thomas Copes off once again, and that's Dan McCauley. It's been a nightmare couple of races for Dan.
It hasn't been able to keep himself out of trouble whatsoever. But look at the timing tower. We've got an AM driver leading on merits here in race 2. Ollie Peacock in second place compared to Garibaldi's first. And then you got the ever-present Sebastian Job just tracking them down. Job has had a look to the inside here on Peacock already in towards Druids. As we have a look at the replay, what happened there? Chaos into Druids. I think Cope got tapped from behind there potentially.
Either tapped from behind or he touched the grass or locked the rears. It's locked the rears. Locked the rears into Daniel McCauley, into passing all of that. Now, if you're Leo Garibaldi, you are praying that Ollie Peacock defends like his life depends on it from Sebastian Job, and so you can run away at the front. Garibaldi did actually a lap quicker than the two behind him. Side-by-side action between Thompson and Chadwick. Chadwick not able to make that move, but don't be surprised if Sebastian Job makes a move in towards turn 1, and I believe he has just done that.
Yep, he's got past Ollie Peacock now, as we were on board briefly there with Will Chadwick. There's the change for position up into P2. Sebastian Job now, he's got about 9/10 of a second to catch Garibaldi. And, well, Garibaldi will I'm not sure whether or not he'll actually 100% fight it with all his might or not, or just let Sebastian Job go. We'll just have to wait and see.
Give us a race, Leo.
Yeah.
Come on. Do all you can. Back the pack up. I mean, that is one tactic that you can do, though. You can back up. If you can know that you can defend that person who's behind you and hold it, park the car on the apex of the corners when they're right there with you. You can bring that other car into the fight and get them thinking about the car behind them, and then start to pull away again. It's a bit sort of some of the dark arts of motorsport, but it works.
Can do. Can indeed. Here's the onboard with Will Chadwick once again. I'm surprised that he's still able to keep up the pace here, considering he may have a little bit of damage sustained to that car, but is completely locked onto the back of Thompson, Emery and Moon ahead of him, so can't have lost too much pace.
I think around this track you're not going to feel the effects the same way as you would at, say, Spa-Francorchamps later on in the season, or at Silverstone at the start of the season. You're not going to feel the effects of that damage in terms of top speed around here, so it's not as bad. You can get away if you're going to have damage at a track. This is probably the best track to do it on this calendar, and so right now you can kind of deal with that. Up at the front, I can tell you it was 0.2 of a second that Job caught up to your leader by, so Job is on that little bit of a charge, but it's not a hard charge, it's just wants to move forward.
He knows he'll be able to catch Garibaldi within the next 5 or 10 minutes or so. You know, he doesn't need to push 110% quality laps to be able to make this happen. So he can just sort of let it happen gradually, see if Garibaldi gives up the position easily or not. He might not, considering Peacock is still relatively close and following in the tyre tracks of Job. So Garibaldi might actually fight this one a little bit firmer than I was perhaps originally expecting with Peacock so close.
Look at the queue of cars behind Jamie Moon, by the way. He basically has the entirety of the rest of the field behind him, does Jamie, and he's doing a good job of holding up that rest of the field. So Matt Emery is one of those, Josh Thompson, Will Chadwick, Josh Marlin, Eric Grove, Leon Penn, Adam State. Adam Small is up one place from the start of this race, so he's been gaining places through this one. It's just one long queue of cars all behind Jamie Moon, who appears to be towing a caravan on a bank holiday Monday.
It's the right temperature for it as well. 23 degrees in the air, 37 degrees on track. So track temperature just a couple of degrees cooler than it was in race 1 as we get later into the afternoon in sim time here. And of course in the real world as well, the sim time pretty much matches up, plus or minus, well, around about 15 minutes difference between the two here.
But this is what I was talking about for Leo Gariboli, though, and this is what you've seen with Jamie Moon. If you know where and when to defend, you can back everyone up behind you. They then get used to your speed, and before you know it, they're all just driving at the same speed as each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the situation this entire train finds themselves in at the moment, because they don't have the lap time delta to be able to put themselves in a position where they're able to get down the inside or outside and try the overtake. So they're all just kind of stuck following each other with no opportunities to improve position. It must be so frustrating if you're a fast driver in this train.
Yeah, if you know that you are definitely faster but you're stuck behind, there's no worse feeling. And if you haven't got that half to 3/4 of a second delta, as you talk about, to be able to make that move, then it really does become frustrating. Job right now, you see that top screen, he is in second place looking for the lead, but Leo Gariboli, oh come on, you want to race for this one, you want to get yourself a win here, but Job won't do anything silly right now. And in the end, you've got that queue of traffic all behind Jamie Moon, although Moon is pulling away slightly from Matt Emery.
Indeed he is, very, very slightly. But there's no pressure on Job to get this move done here at the moment, because Chadwick's all the way down in 7th place. So the points delta is already relatively big between the two of them. If Chadwick was maybe in Peacock's position, maybe there would be more time pressure on Job, but he's not. That's just the simple fact of the situation. So he can take as much time as he needs to try and do this. And Gariboli, well, he'll just have to have his mirrors full of Sebastian Job for the next couple of moments.
And this is the thing, Sebastian has in his hand, which is time. He's got 16.25 minutes remaining in this race. He's got quite a comfortable feeling behind him. So he can look forward here, and he can just force a mistake out of Leo. He can afford to just sit here, try and force a mistake. Leo can't drive in his mirrors. That's something that he can't do, because then he will be tripping over himself and will make mistakes. So Leo needs to just keep running, looking forward, and so far so good. That is exactly what he's doing, but Job just keeps that relentless pressure up. Of course, he was our first ever Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain champion, also a former Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup champion as well, so he's somebody who knows what it takes to win a championship.
It was slightly slow there in towards Druids, and actually gave Peacock a little bit of a gain in terms of his relative time to them. So Job might be caught in a little bit of an interesting situation here if Gariboli is indeed backing him up into Peacock. It should be a very similar situation to what you described earlier, Paul.
I don't think he is backing him up, you know. I think he's just running his line, he's running his pace. The pace isn't actually that bad from Leo Gariboli. I mean, that last lap was a 45.0 compared to Sebastian Job's 45.1. Job's fastest lap of the race is a 44.813 compared to a 44.828. So Leo Gariboli has got the pace in the car there that he needs. So, you know, Job won't have it all his way. As we look a little bit further down your field, Josh Marlin up 6 places in this race already.
Impressive performance from the number 90, and many pole positions on the cards further down the train. It's just a matter of getting there. Meanwhile, battle for the race lead on. You can see the positions chopping and changing at the top of the timing order, and that's Sebastian Job. through up into the race lead after getting the pass done on your AM leader, who still remains the AM leader, by the way, after that pass, Leo Garibaldi. But it was just an angle to the inside, and Garibaldi didn't really fight it, I'm afraid. We will see on the replay here in a couple of moments, I would have thought.
Well, I mean, you've got maybe a sensible head has made that decision from Leo, thinking of his championship compared to an overall win. Me personally, maybe that's where my failings are. I'd be wanting to win. I would be defending that. But Sebastian, as soon as he makes that move and gets past, now he can just focus forward and just keep that relentless pace that he had in race number 1 and just keep that up for the rest of the race.
Battle for P1 becomes a battle for P2, though, because in that entire process, Garibaldi did lose a lot of time back to Ollie Peacock, and now Peacock is applying the pressure to the rear bumper of the number 89 ahead. So we trade one battle for another, and of course we have the big long trainer cars, you know, a good couple of seconds adrift of these guys as well.
Yeah, they're, what, 3.5 seconds back from your race leader is that queue of traffic, headed by Jamie Moon. Although, as I say, Moon has been gapping out that traffic of Matt Emery, Josh Thompson, Will Chadwick, and then the rest of them. So, yeah, they'll be wanting to catch up because they want to try and get themselves a podium. Especially Moon and Emery, they'll want to get themselves a podium from this week. Will Chadwick, of course, be desperate to move forward in all of this, but he's stuck behind Thompson, who's stuck behind Emery right now and has been for a good 10 minutes or so. And Thompson's looking very busy right now. He's looking like he's growing impatient, and that's something that Josh can do on occasion, is just let his emotions just take the best of him and just make a rash move.
He was pretty cool at the end of race 2 at Silverstone, even though the race win eluded him. Still was in with a shot. But there's the run, perhaps, through Paddock Hill Bend. A little tiny little error from Matt Emery has opened up the possibility. He throws the block, and both of them come together on the outside of Druids. Josh Thompson losing positions, Emery losing all of those spots as well. And now it's Chadwick who heads up that train as Moon also pulls away.
Thompson saw the mistake. He felt that he had to take advantage of it immediately. But Emery was covering that line. Look, you'll see him jink to the right there. The gap is always going to close there, Josh. You're not alongside, my friend. And I'm afraid I would put that down on yourself. Yes, Emery's made the mistake. Yes, he's making a reactionary move. However, Josh wasn't alongside when he'd made that move, and that gap always closes.
It's always tempting to just send it. As soon as you see that driver ahead have a problem, you're like a shark to its prey. It's so tempting.
You smell the blood in the water, don't you?
There we go. I was looking for that phrase, and for some reason I wasn't able to pull it out of my brain, Paul. But yeah, that's the exact situation there, and you just can't resist it, and you have to, keep conscious in the moment and make sure that you don't do something too rash. And unfortunately, that was because, like you said, Paul, that was always a closing door there. Maybe if he was, just that slight bit alongside, then maybe that's a move that could work. But it was just too far back at the timing, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I can completely understand the temptation, by the way. I can completely understand the wanting to take advantage of that situation, to take advantage of that mistake that Matt Emery has made in front of you. You see that opportunity come, you've got the run, but he just didn't have enough of a run to be alongside enough to stake claim to the inside of that corner. I mean, you can also turn around and say, if you're Matt Emery, you see Josh is coming up there and you open up the steering wheel to a degree, because you're always going to have an accident if you just keep closing that door. So it's a question of, do you go for self-preservation, or do you try and defend your place and end up with contact being made?
Such a tricky decision. Looking at the battle for P6, Josh Malin, Eric Grove, 90 in the 20. You see that Pure Sims car very, very close to the back. You've got just a couple of tenths of a second between these two. But of course, as we've seen over the course of the 2 races that we've had already, just being a tenth or so of a second faster is not quite enough to be able to pull off the pass reliably.
I'm sorry, can I just draw your attention to the fact that Sebastian Job has got a best part of a 4-second lead right now? That is absolutely incredible. The pace is... I mean, his last lap was just another 0.6 of a second quicker than second place. Absolutely relentless pace from Job. It was the fastest lap of the race with a 44.64. Absolutely incredible stuff from Sebastian.
Untouchable here in race 2. At least he had Chadwick for company in race 1, but this time around an absolute rift has developed between P1 and P2. Of course, a lot of it has been influenced by the fact that Garibaldi is having to keep tabs on Peacock and making sure that he's not going to make a move anytime soon. But of course, that distraction sometimes does come at a price. Down through Paddock Hill Bend they go into that compression, climbing back up slightly into the braking zone of Druids. Garibaldi just hugging that inside white line there at the front of the curb. Meanwhile, oh, what's happened to Adam State? I'm seeing Adam State drop down the order. Oh, it's the exit of Paddock Hill Bend. And we know that at that point of the circuit, Paul, it's a big incident.
He hasn't had 2 weak tyres dip into the gravel there. He's gone all 4 wheels into the gravel and gone head on into that tyre wall. And here we go. Here's the replay. Back end around. Oh, it's the back end of the car that hits the wall there on that one. But yeah, Adam State, I think, having a bit of a day to forget here.
Yeah, and hits directly onto a corner as well, which is the worst thing you can do, especially with this particular damage model. It just, it completely batters the wheel and the suspension on that side.
Look at Moon and look at Chadwick. They are gaining on these 2 now. So Garibaldi is doing everything he can to try and hang on to a podium spot here in second place. But that's allowing Moon and Chadwick to catch up to these 2. They're not gaining by enough to be able to be a threat by the end of this race. But I will say that they'll be starting to feel some pressure towards the end.
Well, the lap time's looking at the moment, so it's a 45 flat, a 45.1 from Garibaldi and Peacock. It was a 45.1 and a 44.8 from Chadwick. So there can't be any damage, if at all, on that Porsche from that instant earlier on in the race if he's running lap times like that.
He'll be kicking himself, won't he, Will, for that little bit of an error on lap 2 through Paddock Hill Bend. But yeah, he'll be hoping to try and save as much as possible out of that. The question is, do you fight with Jamie Moon, even though you have been closing up to the 2 in front, or do you work together, try and catch up to those 2 in front and get yourselves even better result? Although saying that, last lap, Garibaldi has replied, and that was a big moment.
Ooh, Peacock's done very well to hold on to that. That is something that we've seen time and time again, not only in this race, but in race 1 as well. You dip 2 tyres out onto the dirt there, onto the gravel. Sometimes, well, it's really the curb that upsets you before you get to the gravel. It's just gravel makes things worse. But Peacock was able to hold on to that car somehow, quick hands, and keeps himself on the grey stuff.
So far, we've seen that gravel equals wall at Paddock Hill Bend. So keep yourself out of that gravel, and you're onto a winner straight away. But yes, big twitch, big moment there for Peacock, and that just gives that little bit of breathing space to Leo Garibaldi there in second place. The amateur driver, we've got an overall race leader, Sebastian Job, who's the pro leader, and Leo Garibaldi, second place, is the leading amateur driver as well. So the 2 leaders in 1 and 2.
Yeah, great to see, and we've got a battle for, well, it's listed as 6th and back, but I think you can count anyone in this mid-pack as involved in this fight still here at the moment. We're on board with Will Redford, who's inside the top 10 now, trying to track down Leon Penn, but like we've already discussed time and time again, it is so difficult to overtake here at Brands Hatch Indy. It's not that much better on the full GP circuit either. At least you have that long run down in towards the middle section of that circuit. Here you have no such luxury.
Yeah, it's It's been good drive though. As I say, Josh Marlin with that big recovery drive into 8th place. He's been on a fair old charge, that's for sure. And yeah, he'll be a little bit happier with this second race and the opening race of the day. Getting involved in that incident through Surtees. But Thompson, right now, I mean, he has gained 2 places in this race, but he was a lot further up before that incident that he had with Matt Emery.
Indeed he was, so a couple of drivers out of position, all things considered here. There's the battle for seconds. Garibaldi has done very well to hold on to this position so far, but look behind them. That's the battle between Moon and Chadwick, continuing to gain on the both of them. So soon, this will be a 4-car train for P2 here, and we'll see how that changes things, and let's see if there are any aggressive moves that get attempted, especially on the way in towards Druids in the final couple of laps.
Oh! That's a lapped car, and, well, Chadwick took advantage of Moon getting distracted. Thank you very much. Chadwick moving up a place, that helps him in his championship up to 4th. Little bit of a squeeze into Paddock. Now, Moon, you can get that cut back through Paddock. Non-forthcoming, but I think it was actually Jakub Urbanchik who went off at Clearways.
Yeah, I was super scared that was true for some reason there, as he would have been the car next down the line in terms of precision, but there we go, there was a bit of lap traffic. Urbanchik losing control, avoiding the barrier, but deciding that he wants to take no further part in this race, and takes the tow back to pit lane as one of our retirements over the course of today. So he's joined Thomas Cope, Jack Cedric and Kane Halliburton parked on pit lane.
Now, Will Chadwick is running out of time. He's only got 2 minutes and 10 seconds remaining here. He can catch up, but as the great Murray Walker used to say, catching is one thing, passing is quite another. Chadwick would like to get a podium just to minimise the points lost. There's Sebastian Job, your race leader, just out for a nice Sunday afternoon drive in Kent. Meanwhile, the battle for second place is raging on here.
Ooh, and Peacock might just have himself a slight run here down the pit straight. He's going to force Garibaldi to go defensive to the middle of the circuit there in the entry to the Paddock Hill Bend. Peacock will try and get the cut back off, try and gain the speed on towards Druids, but is not successful in doing so. So Garibaldi will still lead the battle into that. And of course, these two always have the looming threats of recovering William Chadwick, trying to get back up into P2 and minimise the points lost to our Pro Championship leader and our previous champion as well for the first iteration of the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain.
And Porsche in the Twitch chat have just stolen my stat that I was going to say. Thank you very much. Yeah, Chadwick, if he does manage to get on the podium, would be the only driver other than Job to get a podium every race this season. And right now, I would say Chadwick's not getting a podium. But if these two squabble for second place, he could well get an opportunity here.
Absolutely. Peacock has been stuck behind Garibaldi for what feels like the majority of this race at this point and has found no way through whatsoever. Hasn't really had that much of an opportunity. And now we get the view of it with Will Chadwick acting as our cameraman for this battle, who would definitely like to get involved in the fight if he has an opportunity to do so, but time is indeed running out. Sebastian Job is just about getting to the line now. This will be the start of the final lap for these drivers. Job 8 seconds ahead of everyone else. Garibaldi, Peacock, Chadwick all fighting it out though for those final steps on the podium through Paddock Hill Bend. Garibaldi taking a little bit of a wider line on entry there. Peacock not going to be close enough to send the lunge in towards Druids. Those are your two main overtaking opportunities at the circuit gone. You're going to have to hope upon hope that there's an opportunity that just spontaneously arises now between Graham Hill Bend and the very end of the lap. But for Sebastian Job at the front of the field, he's been unstoppable. He's been untouchable, especially here in race 1. He wins at Brands Hatch Indy for race 2 by 8 seconds over the rest of the field. What a fantastic performance but also a great performance from Leo Garibaldi, who comes across the line as not only the AM race winner, but overall P2 as well. Great work from the Team PG's driver in the number 89 Porsche. Will Chadwick comes home in P4. That's all that he's able to do to try and minimize the points lost to Sebastian Job. He was looking for a much better race here in race 2, but an unfortunate tangle at the very start of the race sent him back through the field. He's lucky he didn't get too much damage from it, but was looking for a little bit more, especially when Sebastian Job is absolutely on the top of his game. He brings it to a stop there on the pit straight, takes the tow back to the pit lane, and we can recap the race results. Sebastian Job takes the race win for the Red Bull Racing Esports team in that number 22. P1 once again, perfect day for Sebastian Job. And you've got Leo Garibaldi, P2, AM class win, overall P2. Can't really complain about that whatsoever. Just a couple of tenths of a second ahead of Ollie Peacock, who had a similarly great race, by the way. Of course, he was, again, a beneficiary of the reverse grids, and being able to keep it inside the podium positions is definitely something to be commended. So Apex Tech on the podium as well. Will Chadwick in P4. Then you've got Jamie Moon P5, Josh O'Malley in P6 with Eric Grove P7. Josh Thompson P8 with Leon Penn and William Redford rounding out the top 10 finishing results. Adam Smalley in P11 here, so another decent race from the Porsche Junior driver in the real world, gaining 2 positions from 13th to 11th. Then we've got Lewis Ward in P12 with Gareth Higgins in P13. Matthew Emery P14 with Brandon Blakesley P15. P16 goes to Luke Pennington with P17 going to Scott Mokes. Then in 18th you have Jamie Rushworth, Adam State in 19th, and Daniel McCauley rounds out the top 20. And then the drivers towards the bottom of the field and or retired. James Parker, Jacob Urbanchik, Thomas Cope, Jack Cedric and Kane Halliburton. Ends your 25 car finishing results. So, as we head in towards the post-race show here, Paul, we got to touch on the first and perhaps the most primary subject. That's Sebastian Job dominating. That was an exemplary race from him.
Absolutely sensational from Sebastian in that second race. He did everything right with all of that, and really was able to push on, and was patient when he needed to be, waited for his opportunity, saw an opportunity into Paddock Hill Bend, dove out down the inside, got the job done, no pun intended, and then is able to drive away at the front. I mean, putting in lap after lap with fastest lap after fastest lap. It was tremendous stuff to watch from him, and I think if you're watching this championship, or if you are sort of keeping an eye on things, or if you're on the grid, you have to ask the question of who can actually challenge Sebastian Job, especially given his performances in the early going here.
I don't have an answer for you. I don't think there is an answer. I don't think there's really anyone at the moment that can challenge Sebastian Job, not without another couple of tenths going to a certain couple of drivers, you know, later on in the season. So I'm currently of the opinion that Sebastian Job has a bit of a comfortable time here in the championship here at the moment. However, that can change just in one race sometimes. Yeah. You know, because if Sebastian Job has a poor event, that retirement in the first race means he starts like P20 or something in the second race. He's not going to get a good result from the second race either. So that's, and if Chadwick then gets podium finishes in those 2 races, all of a sudden the championship's turned on its head. But I think without any sort of outside influence like that, I think Job still very much in the most comfortable position that I've really seen any driver in any championship.
Yeah, right now he's just in a world of his own here in this series. I mean, we saw how close it was at the end of the opening round of the championship between him and a few of the others across the line at the end of the second race. But this one, it just went absolutely spot on for him. It's worth also mentioning what a drive and what a performance, what a mature drive and performance from Leo Garibaldi. Finished 5th in race number 1. Got a brilliant launch away at the start there from 2nd on the grid in race number 2. and then was able to just fly on past and get through to be able to make some moves. But yeah, Snetterton next time out. Oh, that is another track where it's very narrow and overtaking spots are limited.
Yeah, indeed. So it's going to be a very similar situation when it comes to the overtaking opportunities, like you mentioned, at Snetterton next time out for races 5 and 6 of the championship here in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Britain. But with that, we will unfortunately have to bring it to a close here. It's been a fantastic race here at Brands Hatch Indy. We saw a lot of battling in the mid-pack. We saw Leo Garibaldi hold on to a P2 as an AM driver in that second race, which is an absolutely fantastic feat. We'll get to see more of him later on in the season, I bet you that. But for now, we will, of course, have to bring this to a close. My name's been Connery Maddock. I've been joined by the ever-wonderful Paul Smith. We head to Snetterton in a couple of weeks' time. You want to join us for that one. But for now, we will have to say goodbye.